Hello, hello. I am so excited for today's episode with Laura Wiese from Time Traveler Media. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me just a little bit about who you are, your journey of self-mastery. Tell us about Time Traveler Media too.
Yeah. The best way to explain me, it's taken me a long time to try to figure out how to explain me because there's so many little like threads. But the best way to explain it is that I'm a longtime creative entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And that has looked like a million different things throughout my life. I have been a professional actor. I have been a professional touring singer. I am a voiceover artist. I am a podcast producer. I am also a writer. I'm all over the place, but that has all funneled over time into Time Traveler Media, which is a custom podcast production house. So we work with entrepreneurs and shows that are looking for production help in a bespoke manner. So we go in and we're like, okay, so where are your systems not working? Where are your skill sets not high enough? Like, where do we fit in?
Mhm.
And we just get in there and we root around and we make podcasts happen.
Ah, I love that. We need more podcasts. All the
Yeah.
podcasts. I love that. And just before we came live to start the show, we were talking about how I had created this system and I had no idea what I was doing. And Rebel Radio has become this big production that's not really very complicated, but it's based on who I am and how I show
Exactly.
up. And not everybody knows the systems, knows the technology, knows the workflow to make something like that happen. And I mean, I've dialed mine into 15 minutes, but I don't think that that's a normal podcast production.
Yeah, when you told me that, it was exciting to hear because it's exactly what I teach, which is
Mm,
there is no quote unquote right way to podcast.
right.
You can go out and you can read you can Google and you can buy a course and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, if you just do A, B, and C, but that might not be right for you.
Yes.
You might have skills that aren't being thought of in there. You might not have skills that are necessary for podcasting. And so there's a journey you have to go on to figure out how to make it actually work for you personally. I always say that podcasting has to be sustainable in order for it to be successful.
Yes.
And that means it has to marry with who you are as a person, the whole process.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Yes. And that leads right into our conversation about
Yeah.
self mastery, because in order to podcast, you need to know who you are and how you show up in the
Oh,
world,
yeah.
right?
Totally.
You can't do it someone else's way because it's not going to work. It needs to be supported by your personality and all of those pieces.
Yep. On the front
Yeah.
end and the back end, 100%.
Yes. Yes. This is why Rebel Radio doesn't get edited, because I don't care.
You're like, that's just me.
Right? So who are you most motivated to serve? And I mean, as the podcast production company, who do you serve?
Yeah. My dream clients are always people who are actively creating something with a vision to make the world a better place.
Ugh, thank you.
So, yeah, we are I don't want to use the word picky, but we are very discerning about the shows that we work with. Because, as I said, I've been a voiceover artist for 12 years. I've worked
Mhm.
in advertising with massive corporations using my voice to sell products. And and that's where I got all my audio editing skills specifically.
Mhm.
And as the years went on, I started to realize like, this is not aligned with my purpose. It's a great way to make
Mm.
money. It's easy. It's quick, it's fun. It's good conversation at parties, but like, this is not aligned with my purpose to help like Fortune 500 corporations make more money.
Right.
And I got an opportunity about 6 years ago. Without going too deep into it, I also, along the side of being a voiceover artist, was an executive assistant and a creative assistant to a lot of entrepreneurs and startup founders. And, I would kind of come and be right-hand man for a while between ideas of going off and being an entrepreneur again. So I would do like 6 months to a year with all these different entrepreneurs, like helping them make their stuff.
Right.
Great osmosis learning as a business person.
No kidding.
But about 6 years ago, somebody approached me and they were like, hey, I see that you have all this experience as an executive assistant. You have all this experience as a voiceover artist. Do you know how to do podcasting? And I'm just like, I mean, yeah, like I've never done it, but yes, like absolutely. And so I instantly clicked in And I realized the show I was making was something that I actually thought was important to the greater world.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just this light bulb moment of like, oh my goodness, this accidental parallel of these two careers has now just like slipped together into this thing that actually feels like I could build it into a place that truly felt aligned with who I want to show up as in the world.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's really where we try our hardest to focus in that space of not putting work out that makes the world a worse place.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's the way that we all need to go these days.
Yeah,
Like
very
really be
important.
focused on what we're putting out in the world and is it actually of service or not?
Absolutely, because there's power in that.
Yes.
You know, as you grow in your career and your entrepreneurship, there is power in making the choice to say, no, I will not put my energy behind this just for the dollars.
Right? Amen, sister.
I can't
Amen.
I can't tell you how many probably tens of thousands of dollars I've just been like, whoop, over the last decade because I'm just like, I will not do that. And I have no regrets.
Right? Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, how you feel about how you're showing up in the world is really important. It's the most important. And if you don't
Yeah.
feel good about what you're doing, it's not going to create anything sustainable and it's not going to create the impact that we can create in the world with our voice.
Exactly. And when you're working in media, you have to realize that there's a responsibility in media.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And to take that lightly and just say, oh, I'll make whatever because it doesn't matter. It does matter.
It does matter.
And so I mean, you know, it's nice to have a career that I can, you know, like sustain myself off of, but I don't focus on like money.
Yeah.
Because that's not why I'm on this planet.
Yes, yes. Now, with that being said, entrepreneurs deserve to be wealthy.
Sure.
But do it from a place of alignment, not just for the money. Absolutely. Yep. So what does self-mastery mean to you? This is a very subjective topic. And so I just want to ask that question. Like, what does it mean to you?
You know, I actually don't think up until like 5 or 6 years ago, I don't think the word self-mastery would have meant anything to me. Yeah. But I dealt with a really rough period of life 5-6 years ago. That was so just devastating in just how much it crushed my ability to function, that I realized there's no moving forward without learning how to master self.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that I was reckless in the way that, you know, you stereotypically would think people were reckless, but I was reckless with success. I was just like, that's going to get me somewhere. And so I'm not going to think about the consequences of what that's going to do. I'm just going to go. And years down that path, I found that I'd completely lost my sense of self.
Yeah.
And in coming out of that and the work I had to do in the years that it took me to recover, I started to realize that I do struggle with significant levels of anxiety. And it is deeply important for me to understand what my limits are on any given day.
Yeah.
Whether you have a bad day or a good day, whether you make a small move or a big move, you are always making moves when it comes to your entrepreneurship. You know, like if you are just can't get out of bed that day and your body is telling you you need to rest and you find yourself on Instagram and you post an awesome post, oh my gosh, you did something. You know what I mean? There's no reason to feel like you have to be more productive. And listening to that internal clock that is not focused on your quote unquote success, it's just focused on your holistic human experience. Listening to that and finding a way to communicate with it and be with it has been life-changing for me.
Yes. Oh, I'm just covered in goosebumps right now. You are speaking my language. Absolutely. So tell me how this new level of self-mastery over the last 6 years has helped you as an entrepreneur.
It has made me much more sustainable.
Yes, that's the word.
Yeah. So sustainable is like, I'm 36 and like me prior to 30 didn't understand the concept of sustainability in my personal life whatsoever. I went through jobs every 6 months. I went through career plans. I went through cities. I went through boyfriends, every just thing, boom, 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 like hard and fast and like really intense. And then I would just chuck it.
Right.
And I realized in the depths of that rough period that I had gotten nowhere because I just started over every single time that things got hard.
Mm-hmm.
And coming through that period and realizing that I can ask for support when I need it. I can tell myself to step away, but I don't have to step away forever if I don't need to. I can actually have conversations with myself about the things that are making me anxious. And I don't have to burn my whole life down.
Right? Your life is not disposable. It's not just, no, that's not working
It just
anymore.
felt like, oh, this movie's over. Now I'm going to start a new movie. And so it was really fascinating to now see myself in what has been the most stable and productive period of my life. But honestly, it's also been the calmest.
Yeah. Yeah. No more chaos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think when we're going through, late 20s, early 30s, and that ambition is setting in, and we're just like, yeah, I'm going to go do all the things. I mean, I'm guilty of that too. And I was burning the candle at both ends and working 17-hour days, 7 days a week. And just my relationships were falling apart or at the seams. I didn't have relationships, let's be honest. And my life sucked. I was miserable. But I was chasing the almighty dollar. And now I work half as much time, make a lot more money, and my relationships are pretty amazing.
Yeah, exactly. That time period for me in my late 20s and early 30s, I wasn't chasing the dollar, I was chasing the dream. I was touring in a band with a co-collaborator that was not worth my time.
Yeah.
In the best, most kindest way of saying it. And I was so blinded by my goal and the egotistical part of my goal that I did not allow the true human inside of me to say, hey, what is happening to you is not okay. The way you're being treated is not okay. And I just kept going because I was like, if I can just get through this, I can get to my goal. Because I didn't believe in myself that I could get to my goal alone. I thought I needed people that were more talented than me or, more stereotypically artistic than me to get somewhere. And I didn't believe in myself enough. And so I took this abuse, chronic abuse, that I just kept telling myself, but I've put so much work in, I've put so much work in pursuit of this thing that I have always wanted. And it wasn't my first try getting there. And it was going well and we were getting places. And I was like, I can't just walk away. But the human inside of me was like, you have no choice but to walk away. Yeah. And the process was really challenging to leave, really empowering to find it in myself to leave. Unfortunately, the mental health crisis came afterward. And so it was like, when you go through an abusive period, sometimes your brain is just like, we must get through. We will not process this now. And processed it after. And that was when my life really started to change, because that was when I really was able to have these conversations that I'm speaking of now. Those words weren't in my head at the time, but it's so clear to me that, believing that you matter and believing truly that you matter, not just like, oh, I want to be important, not just, oh, I want validation. Believing that regardless of any external validation, you matter is going to create your ability to make much better decisions for you and the people you love.
Ugh, mic drop. Boom. What is one truth that you wish every entrepreneur knew?
Let me think. I think it's that no one's path is going to be the same. So it is not worth it to spend time comparing.
Yeah.
When you go on Instagram and you see other people that are, like your quote unquote competitors, They have their own thing. They're going on their own path. They're going to have their own voice. It's never going to be yours because you have your own.
Yes.
And so don't lose yourself too much in looking at the popularity or the success of other people because A, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know if they have an entire team, but they just look like one person. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
Just focus on your vision, your goal, know that you matter and that your path to do it is the right way.
Yes. There is no wrong way to be an entrepreneur. That's the whole purpose of being an entrepreneur, is to do it your own way.
Exactly. And I think that exactly, and I think that's so frustrating at being an entrepreneur. Like I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years, but like I've only called myself one for probably 4.
Right.
But my whole career has been hanging out in the entrepreneur world. And, I think now that I'm like really serious about it and I'm like, that's most of the content I take in, it just that you just said is so true, where it's just like, there is no right way to do any of this. And that's why we wanted to do it.
Exactly.
We wanted to do it our way. So like
we didn't want to be stuck in the box of the employee.
Yeah.
And yet here we are as entrepreneurs comparing ourselves to everyone else and putting ourselves in a box.
Yeah. And like, and deciding that like one leader, like one person that we follow on the internet is doing it right. And they're telling me how to do it right. And I don't do it the way that they do it. Like, oh no, like I broke the system. There is no system in entrepreneurship.
There is no fucking
system. We're all making it up.
Right? Oh my God, I love it.
The power of being able to make it up. It's so cool,
It is. That creative expression and just being able to just express yourself in any way you choose. That's what I love about it. Oh, so good. So here at Rebel Radio, we're passionate about activating wealth for entrepreneurs. But this is a kind of a triggering word. And a lot of people are like, ooh, what does wealth mean to you?
Freedom.
Yeah, buddy.
Freedom. The dollar, I always say like one of my biggest like personal little things that I say to myself a lot is money second.
Yeah.
Money is always second. It's always second to me. It's never below. Like money is always second, but it's always money second. I don't need to find success in like having a big house or a fancy car or being able to go on first class flights to fancy destinations. That's not my idea of wealth. My idea of wealth is being able to have full agency over what I do with my life, when I do it, how I do it, where I do it, and who I do it with.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love that so much. Yeah. And I think everybody's definition of wealth is different. And if you do want the flying first class and the fancy cars, go for it. If that's what you want, that's you expressing yourself into
that's a part of your freedom,
Right.
Like,
right. Exactly.
That's a part of that knowing what you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what I want is time. That's what I buy for myself.
I think that's common for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I just want days where I do nothing. Or I work. That's unfair. I never do nothing. I'm always, if I'm not working on my business, I'm working on my purely artistic pursuits.
Right. Yeah.
And I will never give that up. And that is a big piece of wealth for me, is the freedom to be able to be an artist on my own terms.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So there's a lot going on in the world right now.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Let's not go down any of those rabbit holes. But if you could share anything to our audience today about current events, what would you share?
I mean, I think we all know that we are in completely unprecedented times. And in a way, I think that it's a needed wake-up call for a lot of people. If I won't talk about COVID, we've talked about COVID constantly for the last 6 months. But one thing that this experience has done for us is it's made us reckon with the truth that we are one global community.
Yeah.
We don't get away from each other. The butterfly effect is completely true. Yes. A decision that you make in your life might affect others that you've never met and you'll never even know.
Right.
And so if there's one thing that I can say about current events, it's that I urge everyone to really get good with themselves on knowing that you are a part of a global community and everyone on this planet deserves to be here.
Yes.
And I personally always approach this with my wants will never be more important than the world's needs.
Unity
And
consciousness, baby.
that consciousness is so important to hold both of those at the same time, because you can have a truly beautiful, incredible, amazing, wealth-filled life and still be an ethical participant in our global community.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for speaking that truth, because I see it all the time in my own life. And I believe that the world is waking up to that.
Yes.
And it's super exciting. And as soon as you said it, I was like, goosebumps. So good. So good. Laura, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. And as always, we end Rebel Radio with one last question. What do you dream of for the world?
I dream of a world that includes equity for all people and for our environment.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much. This has been a blast.